Hello, guys. Welcome to another exciting episode on the show. You guys know I always bring the best of guests to my show. Today's guest is Edward Doherty. Edward, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on.
All right, I would like you to introduce yourself to my audience.
Sure, I'm based near Boston, Massachusetts. I'm 75 years old. I was a restaurant executive for many years. I also led a nonprofit. I've been a consultant and an author, and I am persistently optimistic.
All right, thank you so much. I would add a little bit to that introduction. Throughout Edward's remarkable career, he has led major organizations, developed high performing teams, served communities, and mentored countless people through lessons on leadership, resilience, and personal growth. So, Edward, I have some questions here for you, and I would like us to get into them.
Sure.
Okay, so your story is about persistence and reinvention. What life experiences shaped the person you are today?
Well, I think that most of the best lessons I learned were when I was unsuccessful at something, when I failed at something, and I didn't view it necessarily as a permanent negative. I tried to take a lesson away, and I think that life moves really fast, and sometimes it moves too fast to notice that there's a lesson in every moment. One of the
All right.
stories, one of the stories that really influenced my life was uh, one summer in college. I worked in a shipyard on a large boat that was being built for the U.S. Navy, and the Vietnam War was still going on. And I was shocked at the number of people who didn't work hard, who stretched the work, who abused the system. And there were rules at the time that, looking back, seem very strange to me. For example, if you went into the men's room, you didn't have to come out. That's true. You could stay in there for hours according to the union contract. So when I didn't have enough to do, I would go to the men's room. I'd get as many newspapers as I can, do the crossword puzzles, and then sleep. And the lesson that it taught me is, and eventually the shipyard went out of business, of course, but the lesson that it taught me is that what you do when no one is looking is really important.
All right. Thank you so much, Edward. Moving on, what inspired you to write observations at the speed of life?
Well, when email was invented, I started sending a weekly email to members of my team. And in that weekly email, I would have reminders about upcoming events. I would emphasize priorities. I would do shout outs for people who had done a good job. And I always ended them with some kind of observation. It could have been an observation about something that was going on with the team, in the world. And a lot of them, I shared experiences that I had in leadership or lessons that I had learned. Well, when I decided to become a consultant 6 years ago, I didn't have a team to write weekly emails to. So what I did is I started just writing that observation and sending it out weekly in a weblog to my contacts, several hundred people. And I've been doing that for 6 years, more than 300 weekly weblogs. And when I was 72, I decided to put 60 of them into a book. So the book actually wrote itself week by week, and it became published when I consolidated 60 of the stories into a book. And the book, an interesting aspect about the book is available in paperback. It's also available in Spanish as an ebook and as an audiobook. And the audiobook narrator is me. And the reason that I narrated it myself is that people have told me over the years that I write like I talk, and that when they read my writing, they could hear me. So I figured, who better than to narrate the book than the person who wrote it?
All right. Thank you so much, Edward. So, You spent decades sharing leadership lessons with your teams. What are some principles that helped you develop great leaders?
I'm sorry, you broke up. I can't. I missed the comment. I'm sorry.
So I said, what are some principles that helped you develop great leaders? You spent
Well, I
decades.
think.
Go
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Well, I think that one of the clues that someone has great potential, and I always use this, is their ability to accept feedback. And the way feedback works, let's say that it's our first day together. I'm your leader. You're working with me. After a few days, I give you some mild, gentle feedback. How you respond determines how honest I am the next time I give you feedback, and so on and so forth. So I have found that people who are willing to accept feedback accelerate their careers and their development insanely faster than people who don't. I'll give you an example in my case. At one point, I was based in Los Angeles, and I was responsible for 56 full-service restaurants in Southern California. There was a new regional vice president who wanted to visit stores with me, and we did. We spent a day and went to 8 to 10 restaurants. On the way back, I filled up the car with gas, and then we headed to the office. And on the way back to the office, this is what he said to me. He said, Ed, he says, what you do best in your job is get gas. But unless you start doing some other things right, you're not going to make it. Now, I want you to stop and think about that. My new regional vice president told me that getting gas for my car was the thing I did best in my job. That's pretty brutal feedback. And that could have gone one of two ways. What I did was I asked him questions. I asked him what I could do better. Our weekly one-on-one meetings turned into personal training classes for me. I tried what he suggested. It worked. I gave him feedback. He went and visited my stores again, maybe about a year later, and the transition was dramatic. So that when he needed someone to take over the San Francisco area, he selected the guy who at one time could only get gas. And I use that as an example of how your willingness to accept feedback can really change the trajectory of your career.
All right. Thank you so much, Edward. So, what role have optimism and persistence played throughout your life?
Well, I think that persistence is one of the greatest and most powerful things that a human being can possess. During most of my life, I was always afraid that if I quit, that success was right around the corner. It was one more step or one more meeting or one more trip. So I've always been fairly persistent. The optimism part is years ago I read this quote that said, the pessimist might be proven right in the long run, but the optimist has a better time along the way. And people who are always negative, they may be right. It may be true what they think, but they don't enjoy things and they don't enjoy life with a pessimistic viewpoint. An optimistic viewpoint makes things much more enjoyable.
Okay, thank you so much. So, you have worked in business, non-profits, and consulting. What common qualities separate great leaders from average ones?
Could you ask the question again, please? You broke up.
You have worked in business, non-profits, and consulting. What common qualities separate great leaders from average ones?
Well, I think that all three of them have commonalities. I think that all three of them require that revenue exceeds expenses. All three of them require authenticity because people don't like to deal with inauthentic people. And I think all three of them take an awareness of what's going on. And in a nonprofit, that may be the perspective of a donor or a volunteer. In a for-profit, it could be a customer. And as a consultant, it's a client. I think the key points are all three of them are trying to meet a need. And so assessing what the real need is and then taking the steps to meet that, I think is a very common thing. The other thing is I don't think leadership is depending on the type of work you do. I think leadership is leadership, especially self-leadership. And I think that all three require leaders to have credibility. And the number one way, in my experience, to get credibility is to lead by example. I don't think there's any substitute for leading by example. And I think people who try to lead by telling people what to do, to do things they wouldn't do themselves, are doomed to failure.
All right, thank you so much, Edward. So, moving on, after more than 40 years of writing lessons and reflections, what is one life lesson you believe everyone should remember?
Well, it's kind of the theme of my book. There's a lesson in every moment, but most people are moving too fast to notice it. So I call it observe, act, stay with it. The people who grow, lead, and make a difference are not necessarily the ones who experience better moments. They're the ones who notice more, learn faster, and do something with what they see. So the book is a collection of life stories, but it's not really a memoir. It's about the lessons hiding in ordinary moments, in work, family, disappointment, leadership, aging, fear, persistence, and humor. My belief is that life is always teaching us something. The question is whether we're paying attention.
All right, so if listeners take one message from your journey, what would you hope it is?
I didn't hear the beginning of your question. I'm sorry.
If listeners take one message from your journey, what would you hope it is?
So there's two quotes that I regularly use. The first one was from my 94-year-old mother before she passed away. One day I was telling her what I was doing, where I was going, how I was doing it on a visit to her. And she pointed at me, looked me right in the eye, and she said, "You lead a very interesting life, and it's all your fault." And I stopped and thought about that, and I have had a very interesting life, and mostly because I didn't leave it up to someone else to make it interesting. I mean, whose job is it to make your job interesting? Is it your boss's job? Is it your company's job? Or do you have some responsibility? So you have a big role in making your life interesting, and I think that far too many people either don't know that or don't take advantage of that. The second quote is I was 22. I saw a quote from Calvin Coolidge hanging in a frame in a restaurant. And I have always had this, for more than 50 years, I've had this quote with me, so I'm going to read it to you. It's called Persistence. Nothing in this world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful people with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan, "Press on," has solved and always will solve the problems of the human race. It's Calvin Coolidge.
All right, Edward, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming to my show today and sharing with us your story. The story is a powerful reminder that growth, contribution, and achievement are possible at every stage of life. The journey shows us that leadership isn't just about titles, it's about the impact we have on others and the courage to keep moving forward. So, before you go, Edward, how can listeners connect with you and learn more about what you do?
So if you're interested in the book, it's available on Amazon. It's also available at my author website, which is Observation at the Speed of Life. And if you're interested in anything else about me, you can visit my webpage, which is ambroselandon.com, ambroselanden.com.
All right. Once again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you for coming to my show.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Okay. Thank you.